Hello, it's Laura Davalo here. Today I'm stopping by to share 3 interactive Christmas tags created with products from the Giftable Greetings tag kit. As you can see, you don't need a whole lot of space in order to add simple interactive elements to your projects. The first tag features a very simple slider mechanism which reveals a long list where you can stamp another sentiment or write something by hand. The second one can be made without specific dies in order to make the cute penguins dance, and the third one uses a volvel or rotating wheel mechanism to really bring attention to the sentiment. Let's start by stamping the adorable Santa from the Birdie Brown Jingle All the Way stamp set and the sentiment from the Giftable Greetings stamp set on our tag. I'm just playing around with the elements to see that everything fits. Okay, now that I'm happy with the placement of the Santa, I'm going to stamp it first on a tag die cut out of printer paper. I'm using Extreme Black Hybrid ink for a nice result. Now I can create a mask so that I don't stamp the list that he is holding. I'm cutting out everything that I want to transfer to my tag. And to make things easier, I'm not going to stamp his right hand, so I'm leaving that part untouched. Okay, I'm placing the mask on top of the other tag again and inking the stamp. Let's see what happens. I'm a believer in rubbing gently over the whole image. And it still turned out a little bit too light, so I'll repeat it. Luckily I'm using a MISTI. Now we can get rid of the mask and draw the missing part in a simpler way with a ruler to get some straight lines. I like to use a pencil first and then I go in with a multiliner pen. Off camera I colored my little scene with Copic markers, Prismacolor pencils and a white gel pen. I also heat embossed the sentiment in platinum. Now I'm just adding the topper in Amarena Sherry cardstock with some liquid glue before cutting a slit for our list. It's better to carefully slide the blade several times over the same place instead of applying too much pressure on the first go and make a mistake. Okay, to speed things along, I cut my list off camera and stamped the word pull from the interactive label stamp set on it. It's 7/16 of an inch or 11 millimeters wide, and it ended up being 2.5 inches or 63 millimeters long. I also cut another strip to act as a stop. It's about 1 inch wide and 1/4 of an inch tall. I'm using liquid glue to adhere it horizontally. I'm gonna press with my finger for a little bit and then we can move on. Okay, so I noticed that it was a little bit difficult to grab, so I'm using a pen to curl the edge just a bit. There we go, a lot better. Next, I'm going to stamp a sentiment from the Itty Bitty Gifting stamp set on it. The Amarena Sherry ink pad was very juicy, so it didn't turn out perfect, but I'm going to fix it with a white gel pen. Okay, now I can snip off that extra piece and move on to assembling everything. Instead of foam tape, I'm going to cut another tag, or actually just the outline of a tag, by adding the rectangular die in the middle. Okay, I'm gonna color the center hole with a red marker so that you won't see it when the tag is assembled. Here are all of the pieces needed, and here is the tag already assembled. I'm adding a little bit of glossy accents to the knot and the ends of the golden string, which tends to unravel. Let's move on to the second tag. This 2x4 inch strip of cardstock is going to be our pull tab. I'm folding it in half to make it sturdy. Then I'm adding liquid glue and rubbing it with a bone folder. You can use a corner punch to round the edges or just leave it like this. Here are all of the elements needed. The cute couple is from the Birdie Brown Holiday Penguin stamp set. The pattern paper is from the Festive Celebrations paper pad. I also cut a couple of circles out of cardstock back with score tape using a 1/4-inch punch, and these stacked donut pieces are from the Twist and Turn dynamic set, but you could use thick foam dots instead. We will also need a couple of connectors to make the penguins rotate. We could use these dies or make our own by folding a 1 by 4-inch strip of cardstock in half. Once again, we add glue and use a bone folder to rub to make it sturdy. And now we can use scissors to cut it in half. After that, we'll use a hole punch or a piercing tool to add a little hole to the edge of both pieces. Let's start assembling the tag. First, we need to figure out where to place our penguins so that they have enough room to rotate. The upper one is going to rotate clockwise and the other one is going to rotate anti-clockwise when the pull tab is pulled. I marked the spot with a pen and now I'm using my hole punch to make a couple of holes in the tag. It didn't have a long enough reach to cut them exactly where I intended, but it worked anyway. Now let's stack the two tags and mark the center of the holes for our brads. I'm using my handy old piercing tool again to punch the tiny holes. Off camera, I also cut a long thin strip of printer paper. I didn't measure it, but I think it's less than a 1/4 inch wide. I'm going to wrap it around the pull tab, trim it, and add some tape to make a collar piece so that it slides more or less straight. Let me center the tag on the grid so that I can adhere it in the center. There we go. My camera stopped filming because my memory card was full and I didn't notice it right away, so let me explain what I did next. I flipped the pull tab so that I could adhere a couple of strips of printer paper to the back of it, at the same height as the connectors, which I attached to the tag with 2 mini brads. I then added pieces of score tape to the edges of these paper strips in these places that I'm marking. Now I can flip the pull tab again so that the word pull is visible, but I actually need to disassemble the connectors so that I can insert them through those strips again. Let's put the pull tab through the collar first, and now we can link the connectors to the tag with the mini brads. Okay, as you can see, when I pull the tab, the connectors move with it. After adding foam squares around the mechanism, I can carefully adhere the two tags together. It's time to glue the donut pieces to the visible part of the connectors. I'm using liquid glue again, so I need to press down firmly to make sure that they stick. There we go. Let me check that they are rotating correctly before I glue the penguins to them. I decided to add a couple of thin foam dots to make the penguins stand out from the background a little bit more. And there we go. Aren't they cute, swaying back and forth? Okay, before I add the finishing touches off camera, I'm going to cover the brad prongs on the back of the tag with those red circles. And here's a picture of the finished tag. Let's move on to the last one. I started by die cutting 2 circles with a 2.5-inch circle die, one of them out of thin paper. I folded the latter in half and once more in half to find the center and used it as a template to punch a hole in the center of my cardstock circle. Here I'm trying to find the perfect placement for the circle so that I have enough room to stamp my sentiment on it. The speech bubble die is from the Peekaboo Wheel Dynamics set. I die cut another same size circle out of vellum to be able to see what I was doing. I didn't want to punch a hole in the main tag for the brad, so I used it as a guide to place my main circle on the other tag. And now I can just hold it with my hand and punch a hole in the back tag. Next, I'm temporarily adhering the two tags together with some washi tape so that I can use a pencil to trace the outline of the speech bubble. I'm slightly overlapping them so that I can fit 4 on my circle, and I'm numbering them so that I don't stamp the words in the wrong order again. Off camera, I partially stamped 2 of the sentiments from the itty bitty gifting set, and now I'm ready to assemble my tag. Here I'm adding pieces of thin foam tape around the rotating disc. Let's just skip ahead, adhere the 2 tags together, and check out the Volvel mechanism in action. To keep the video as short as possible, I added the finishing touches off camera, and here's the last picture of the 3rd tag. That's it for today. I hope I've inspired you to add little interactive features to your tags. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye bye. Hasta la próxima.